Meanwhile, China's third aircraft carrier, Fujian, has reportedly wrapped up its second sea trial. It was an expansive and an intensive test.
China's new giant aircraft carrier is a nightmare. The Cold War between the United States and China has gone on for quite a while now. And as the years go by, each country is coming up with its own way of proving dominance. From nuclear warheads to fast fighter jets, none of the countries will accept defeat. The United States has always showcased its dominance when it comes to military power. But recently, news of China's new giant aircraft carrier is giving the United States military nightmares. With its USS Gerald R Ford aircraft carrier, the United States has dominated the naval battle between the two. However, with China's introduction of its own aircraft carrier, the Fujian, is it the end of the United States' reign in supreme naval power? Join us as we look at China's apex aircraft carrier, the Fujian, which is meant to be their answer to the newest United States aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R Ford. USS Gerald R Ford, United States monstrous aircraft carrier. With the USS Gerald R Ford, the United States Navy can proudly boast because this machine is simply spectacular. Being the first of a series of 10 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers that are currently being constructed for the United States Navy, this ship intends to replace current carriers with sheer size and carrying capacity. The USS Gerald R Ford was named after the 38th President of the United States, Gerald Ford, who served in the United States Navy in the Pacific Theater during World War II. The construction of this major ship began on the 11th of August, 2005. By 2013, the construction of the mega monster was complete, and the Gerald R Ford would enter the United States Navy fleet, replacing the decommissioned USS Enterprise, CVN-65, which was the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier and served the United States Navy for 51 years. After a long wait for the highly anticipated mega carrier and an additional delay of 2 years, the United States Navy was ecstatic when the aircraft carrier was delivered to them. The carrier, despite being originally scheduled for delivery in 2015, was delivered to the Navy on the 31st of May, 2017. The United States President at the time, former President Donald Trump, formally commissioned the USS Gerald R Ford on July 22, 2017, during a ceremony at Naval Station Norfolk in Virginia. This momentous event marked the entry of the most advanced and powerful aircraft carrier in the world, signifying a major accomplishment for the United States Navy, cementing its dominance on maritime superiority. As of 2024, the Gerald R Ford is the world's largest aircraft carrier and the largest warship ever constructed. No wonder China was non-hesitant in countering the United States move. Otherwise, they would have been destroyed in a naval battle. The Gerald R Ford's performance improvements. The Gerald R Ford is the first of a class of aircraft carriers that offer significant performance improvements over the previous Nimitz class, a class of 10 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers in service with the United States Navy. Equipped with an AN-SPY-3, an active electronically scanned array radar, and an AN-SPY-4 Navy, a passive electronically scanned array 3D radar system, the carrier has exceptional detection and tracking capabilities. No ship can attack the Gerald R Ford without being spotted, regardless of the position they are in. Simultaneously monitoring and tracking multiple threats, the carrier's defense and operational efficiency are on a whole new level. In addition to these radars, the ship's self-defense system, also known as SSDS Mk2 Baseline 10, comes with a Mod 6 variant command and control system that enhances the ship's ability to quickly respond to potential threats. How does a small system enhance a monster vessel like Gerald R Ford's fast responses? Well, the ship's self-defense system is able to integrate the radar data and other sensor inputs, thus enabling the carrier to rapidly deploy countermeasures and defenses. With defense systems like this, China wouldn't stand a chance against the United States Navy. But maybe now that they have a monster of their own, maybe they actually do stand a chance. Different from its counterparts, the USS Gerald R Ford has leaped ahead of its time in naval engineering. Take a look at its island, the highest accessible part directly above the navigating bridge of the ship. For example, the island on the Gerald R Ford is shorter in length, but 20 feet taller compared to the older Nimitz-class carriers, creating more open space on the flight deck. Not only is this essential for the smooth taking off and landing of aircraft, but the added height also offers better visibility for the crew. In addition to the height, the island has also been moved 140 feet farther toward the rear of the ship and 3 feet closer to the edge. This is crucial because when in battle, the ship will have a more open flight deck layout, which is crucial for efficient aircraft launch and recovery operations. Now you can see the redesign of Gerald R Ford's island was not for aesthetics, right? However, the Gerald R Ford wouldn't be among the fiercest naval vessels just because of a few structural advances to its island now, would it? Engineers replaced the traditional steam catapults used to allow aircraft to take off at a limited distance with the electromagnetic aircraft launch system, which will allow the ships on the vessel to take off at super-fast speeds. In addition to this vital role, the electromagnetic aircraft launch system has done away with the traditional requirement to generate and store steam, freeing up a considerable amount of space below the deck. According to naval reports, the new system allows the Gerald R Ford to successfully make up to 25% more aircraft launches per day. The new carrier also requires 25% fewer crew members than its predecessors, the Nimitz class, which, according to the Navy, will save them up to $4 billion in operating costs over a 50-year lifespan. The USS Gerald R Ford is truly a force to reckon with. The mega-carrier has been through plenty of tests that have ascertained its strengths in battle. Since its delivery on May 31, 2017, the USS Gerald R Ford has dominated the naval wars. But with the news of the arrival of China's own aircraft carrier Fujian, the race for top dog in naval war seems to be far from over. What is it about China's Fujian that has threatened the United States Navy? Chinese aircraft carrier Fujian. Well, China, unlike the United States, doesn't have a long history of naval ships, but the few it has had have truly been powerful. But none is comparable to the Fujian. The People's Liberation Army Navy has had 3 aircraft carriers under the Chinese aircraft carrier program. The program's aircraft carrier, Liaoning, is a Chinese Type 001 aircraft carrier and is the first aircraft carrier commissioned into the People's Liberation Army Navy Surface Force. Although originally the Liaoning belonged to the Soviet Navy under the Kuznetsov class as aircraft carrier Riga. However, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, the ship was put up for sale by Ukraine. China purchased the ship in 1998 and, after much delay, towed it to the Dalian Naval Shipyard in the northeastern province of Liaoning, China in 2002. However, the carrier was not used until the ship was rebuilt and commissioned into the People's Liberation Army Navy as Liaoning in 2012. Shandong, on the other hand, was launched much later, on the 26th of April 2017, for the People's Liberation Army Navy of China. Holding the record as the country's first domestically built aircraft carrier, the Shandong is the pride of the People's Republic of China. The design of the ship is a modified version of and similar to the Kuznetsov-class aircraft carrier originally made for the Soviet Navy, making it a lethal addition to China's artillery. However, despite the Shandong's improvements, China's newest aircraft carrier, Fujian, beats its predecessors as it is China's first indigenously designed carrier and the first capable of catapult-assisted takeoffs, which are much faster, safer, and more reliable than the ski jumps on the Liaoning and the Shandong. The 316-meter-long monster ship was built by the Jiangnan Shipyard for the People's Liberation Army Navy and launched for trials on the 17th of June 2022. According to analyst Robert Farley, the Fujian is believed to be the largest and most advanced aircraft carrier ever built outside the United States. You can see why the United States needs to be alert, right? The design of the Fujian aircraft carrier. In terms of structure, the Fujian is closely similar to the United States USS Gerald R Ford, with only minor differences such as the size. But you can understand why so. With the United States being primal in naval warfare, it's only logical that China had to emulate the best. In fact, for a while now, China has had a history of copying the United States naval and aerial machinery. From aircraft like the MV-22 Osprey and the F-35 fighter to Stinger missiles and warships, China has been trying to defeat the United States at the naval battle by any means possible. With their naval strength slowly gaining momentum, maybe the time for them to counter the United States is finally here. With a full load displacement of 80,000 to 85,000 tons, the 76-meter-wide vessel has been compared to the United States Navy's decommissioned Kitty Hawk-class aircraft carriers, and even surpasses carriers manufactured by other prominent naval powers such as the UK, France, India, and Japan. Unlike her predecessors, who used ski jumps to launch their aircraft, the Fujian's flight deck is equipped with 3 electromagnetic catapults used for launching the aircraft and an angled landing area with a resting gear used to rapidly decelerate an aircraft as it lands. This type of mechanical system has significantly improved China's naval forces, setting it apart from its neighbors, India, Japan, and South Korea, who are reportedly scrambling to bolster their maritime strength to counter China's. What's even more scary is that China aims to have 6 such carriers on its roster by 2035. This would make China the second most powerful blue water navy worldwide after the United States. Onboard aircrafts, Fujian's size also comes as a great advantage during battle, with an air wing estimated to hold at least 40 fixed-wing aircraft and 12 helicopters. It is said that with it, the Fujian will carry the Shenyang J-15 fighter. This aircraft is a Chinese all-weather twinjet capable of performing different roles in combat, from simple air support to air-to-air combat. The fighter jets are also capable of performing aerial bombing on targets at high speeds. Their speeds also allow them to be used for conducting reconnaissance before the ship arrives at a place for safety and security. In addition to the Shenyang J-15 fighter, the Fujian will also carry the Shenyang FC-31 fighter, which is the most advanced fighter in operation as of 2024. In addition to these aerial beasts, the Fujian will have on board the Xi'an KJ-600, a Chinese twin-propeller military aircraft intended for carrier-based operations. Not only is the Xi'an KJ-600 designed for cargo, but it can also carry airborne early warning and control systems. The Airborne Early Warning and Control System is an airborne radar warning system that comprises sensors, event detection, and decision subsystems designed to detect aircraft, ships, vehicles, missiles, and other incoming projectiles at long ranges. Airborne Early Warning and Control Systems allow the operators to detect, track, and prioritize targets and identify friendly aircraft from hostile ones in real time and from much farther away than ground-based radars. In times of a battle in the open waters, an airborne early warning and control aircraft can be deployed to act as a booster, detecting objects at distances that can't be reached by the ship's radar. This is essential to land strikes first to unexpected enemy troops. Also, as much as these early warning radars can be detected and shot down like normal ground radars, because of the aircraft's ability to evade fire and its extended sensor range, they are much less vulnerable to counterattacks than ground systems. Well, we can see that the Fujian has on board a very powerful aerial attack force. Is it the epitome of a super carrier, as most people believe? It is clear now that China's ambitions to solidify its position as a dominant maritime force are taking a giant leap forward with the unveiling of Fujian. With only a few years of experience with aircraft carriers, for China to come up with such a formidable vessel in such a short time is absolutely unbelievable. No wonder its neighbors are expressing their concerns. Fujian is scaring China's neighbors. India, one of China's neighbors, has expressed concerns over the Fujian's formidable power. In an interview, former Indian naval officer C. Uday Bhaskar explained to the South China Morning Post the expected effects of having such a machine. He said, "China is seen as a source of anxiety by some Asian nations, including India. There is concern about China's revisionist agenda, which can rapidly morph into a threat." If that's not enough, the current Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, in an effort to counter China, also announced last month that India will soon begin constructing its 3rd aircraft carrier. According to analysts, a 3rd aircraft carrier is crucial for the Indian Navy to match China's capabilities. But seeing what a monster the Fujian is, I highly doubt it. Apart from India, Japan has also expressed its concerns over China bolstering its naval forces. In light of this, they too have unveiled upgrades to its first aircraft carrier, the Kaga, in April 2024. Kaga was initially built as a helicopter carrier, but was modified to carry Lockheed Martin F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters. However, this is not enough for Kaga to stand against other carriers like China's Fujian and the United States' USS Gerald R Ford. So, to support its role as a carrier of fixed-wing warplanes, the Kaga will have to undergo a second round of hull modifications. According to the Japan Navy reports, Kaga's sister ship Izumo, commissioned in 2015, will also undergo modifications, which are expected to be completed by 2027. Will this be enough to phase the Fujian? After the upgrade, it is said that both ships will be able to carry 12 fighters and 16 helicopters. Although impressive, it won't be enough to phase the monster Fujian. North Korea also expressed its concerns with China's Fujian. In their announced plan, the South Korean Navy plans to construct its first aircraft carrier in its 2021 to 2025 national plan. According to their reports, the carrier will operate F-35B jets with short takeoff and vertical landing capabilities. But despite its supposed strengths, the aircraft carrier project was delayed and did not feature in its 2024 to 2028 midterm defense blueprint. Maybe they just aren't ready to undertake such an immense project. Or maybe it is because of the ongoing debates in some Asian countries regarding the extent of their investment in aircraft carrier programs. In confirmation of this, Alexander Hind, a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, told SCMP, "Despite advances in anti-ship and anti-aircraft defense systems, aircraft carriers are still one of the biggest contemporary symbols of military power and the ability to project that power. Maybe in the future, some other Asian country will rise to counter China, but for now, the only challenger of the Fujian is the USS Gerald R Ford. But how does the Fujian stand up against its deadliest rival, the USS Gerald R Ford? How the Fujian's defense system looks like? Both carriers, the Gerald R Ford and the Fujian, are the epitome of naval power for their respective countries. However, only one mega-carrier can win in case of a battle. At first glance, both carriers seem the same. Only with proper scrutiny can you tell the Fujian apart from the Gerald R Ford. For starters, Gerald R Ford's deck is just slightly larger than the Fujian, with a staggering length of 333 meters and width of 78 meters, whereas the Fujian's deck stands 316 meters long and 76 meters wide. So, in terms of size, the Gerald R Ford slightly outshines the Fujian. Now, what about the weight of the carriers? Now, the Fujian might be close to the Gerald R Ford in terms of size, but when we talk about weight, the United States naval power completely overshadows China's Fujian with almost 20,000 more tons. Can you imagine? The Gerald R Ford stands at a staggering 100,000 tons, with a full load of planes, supplies, full tank fuel and bombs, whereas the Fujian at roughly 80,000 tons with full combat load. Yes, the Gerald R Ford is heavier than the Fujian, but why does it matter? The fact that the Gerald R Ford is heavier means that its center of gravity will be pushed lower into the water, enabling the Gerald R Ford to move more stably than the Fujian, whose center of gravity will be higher. In terms of defensive mechanisms and countermeasures, both ships have a robust array of artillery. Even though the actual information about the Fujian's weapon loadout is not known, military experts have made assumptions regarding the Fujian's predecessors. For its attack, we can assume that the Fujian is equipped with 3 18-cell guided missile launchers capable of firing a range of 290 nautical miles. That is about 540 kilometers, all filled with HQ-10 surface-to-air missiles. These are short-range surface-to-air missiles designed to be launched from the ground or the sea to destroy aircraft or other missiles. In addition to these missiles, the Fujian will probably have on board 2 RBU-600 Smerch launchers. These are 213 mm caliber Soviet anti-submarine mortars deployed on ships to sink submarines by a direct hit with a small explosive charge. These launchers are quite similar in principle to the United Kingdom Royal Navy's Hedgehog system used during the Second World War. With the typical magazine capacity, of either 72 or 96 rounds per launcher. It can also be used for shore bombardment. The RBU-600 on its own is a force to reckon with. However, that's not all the Fujian has to offer as its defense mechanism. The Fujian is also equipped with 3 close-in weapon systems, which are point defense weapon systems for detecting and destroying short-range incoming missiles and enemy aircraft that have penetrated the outer defenses. These weapons are powerful enough to defeat carriers manufactured by other prominent naval powers such as the UK, France, India, and Japan. But the question remains, is it enough to defeat the United States Gerald R. Ford? The Fujian, China's epitome of naval power, is definitely a force to reckon with. But its United States competitor is much more than just a big ship. The United States has been at the pinnacle of naval engineering for the longest time now. And with its monstrous carrier ships, the United States has dominated the blue waters as far as naval strength is concerned. The addition of the Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier to this arsenal made an already strong naval force even more formidable. The megastructure stands proud as the best aircraft carrier the United States has ever produced. Now we've already seen how the Gerald R. Ford compares to the Fujian in terms of size and weight. But when it comes to self-defense systems, all these ships are monsters of the blue sea, especially the Gerald R. Ford with its wide array of weapons from forward to the back of the ship. The Gerald R. Ford comes equipped with 2 rolling airframe missile launchers. These are small, lightweight weapon guidance systems that use the infrared light emission from a target to track and follow it seamlessly. Sounds scary, right? In addition to these, the Gerald R. Ford also comes with 2 elevated Sea Sparrow launchers, also used to protect ships from attacking missiles and aircraft. As much as these weapons seem scary, it's not enough to keep the Gerald R. Ford at the top of the list when it comes to naval dominance. That's why the ship comes equipped with even more defense mechanisms. The Gerald R. Ford also has on it 3 close-in weapon system 20mm chain guns that are capable of shredding an incoming missile to millions of pieces before it even gets near the carrier. That's not all. The Gerald R. Ford also comes with 4 25mm Bushmaster chain guns with dual feed capability and a metallic link belt that can destroy lightly armored vehicles and aerial targets such as helicopters and other slow-flying aircraft. These systems combined are enough to maintain Gerald R. Ford's top spot in the naval warforce. However, that's not all the monstrous aircraft carrier has to offer. It has an additional 450 caliber machine gun mounts, which is a heavy and powerful machine gun that is commonly used with most warships. And don't get me started on Gerald R. Ford's SLQ-32 V6, a shipboard electronic warfare suite that is the primary electronic warfare system in use by U.S. Navy ships. The Gerald R. Ford is also equipped with Corvus chaff launchers, and despite initially being built for British naval ships, these launchers are being widely used by the United States Navy today. The Corvus chaff launcher is a British shipborne chaff decoy launching a lightweight system, thus a quick reaction system for the self-defense of surface vessels against surface-to-surface and air-to-surface missiles. And as the Corvus chaff launcher's dispensing rockets confuse the enemy's radar and missile system, a towed array called a Nixie is meant to confuse incoming torpedoes. It's clear that the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier has many more self-defense systems as compared to the Fujian, but the Fujian, in its own remarks, can adequately defend itself should the need arise. USS Gerald R. Ford's offense. We've seen how the 2 carriers compare in terms of defense systems, but what about their offense system? As we discussed earlier, the USS Gerald R. Ford has on its deck a number of fighter jets. The small Air Force wing of the ship is called a carrier air wing. In the USS Gerald R. Ford, each carrier air wing is packed with different fighter jet units that can carry out a variety of combat missions for the Gerald R. Ford. She is able to carry either 4 F-18 fighter squadrons or 3 F-18 squadrons and 1 F-35 squadron. These jets are capable of fast air-to-surface strikes and air-to-air strikes. In addition to the fighter jets, the carrier also has on board 1 Growler squadron. This is an American carrier-based electronic warfare aircraft that is feared for its ectoronic attacks and suppression of enemy fighter jets. Now, I'm pretty sure if I told you that the Gerald R. Ford, with all these aircraft on board, could carry 1 more aircraft, you wouldn't believe it. On board its decks is one helicopter combat squadron comprised of MH-6 Little Bird helicopters, which are light helicopters used for special operations in the United States Army. In addition to the MH-6, there is also one squadron of MH-6 Romeo helicopters, a twin turboshaft engine, and a multi-mission United States Navy helicopter that can handle almost anything from submarine warfare to combat search and medical evacuation. Now, the most powerful weapon on board the Gerald R Ford is an airborne early warning alert squadron that transmits signals to the carrier, giving the visuals of hundreds of miles away from the carrier's position where normal ground radars cannot reach. You can't talk about Gerald R Ford's offensive powers without mentioning its Grumman C-2 Greyhound transport planes. These are twin-engine, high-wing cargo aircraft designed to carry supplies, mail, and passengers to and from aircraft carriers of the United States Navy. In total, the United States naval powerhouse, Gerald R Ford, can carry up to 40 fighter jets, 7 electronic attack planes, 5 MH-6 Romeo helicopters, 8 MH-6 Little Bird helicopters, and 2 Grumman C-2 Greyhounds, summing up to a total of more than 60 aircraft, depending on what the mission requires. The Fujian's offense in relation to the Gerald R Ford. The Chinese naval forces, despite being new to the naval warforce game, have really outdone themselves with the Fujian. Its offensive combat power might be lower than Gerald R Ford's, but it has to be something to have the United States shaking, am I right? And although the Chinese are yet to disclose the exact air-wing components on board the Fujian, there is speculation on what the monstrous vessel can carry. For starters, the Fujian can carry up to 40 Shenyang J-15 fighter jets, which are suitable for fast air-to-air strikes and air-to-surface strikes. Despite the difference in actual information, most people speculate the Fujian is able to carry with it a utility helicopter in addition to the fighter jets. Surprisingly, even despite their little experience in naval warfare, the Chinese have also started experimenting with an airborne early warning alert aircraft called the KJ-600. Although it is not yet confirmed if they have succeeded in testing and using these aircraft, if the Chinese Navy manages to pull it off, it would be a whole different challenge for the United States. But even if they manage to pull it off, it wouldn't be easy to defeat the Gerald R Ford. If it happens that the two ever went head-to-head, the USS Gerald R Ford would destroy the Fujian in a heartbeat. This is because the Gerald R Ford's ability to detect the Fujian and its fleet coming from miles away is attributed to its Grumman E-2 Hawkeye, and the more heavily armed F-18 and F-35 fighter jets could destroy the Fujian fleet before they could even respond. All in all, as far as China's Fujian is yet to be announced, the United States USS Gerald R Ford still remains at the top without any competition whatsoever. Another important difference that stacks the Gerald R Ford on top of the Fujian is that the United States naval apex is nuclear-powered. This makes it much more powerful as compared to the Fujian. Although the true details about the Fujian's offense are yet to be disclosed, we know for a fact that they did not use nuclear to power their aircraft carrier. Rather, they used the same 4 huge boilers that power the Shandong and the Liaoning. This mechanism would set the Fujian way behind in terms of harnessing its ultimate power. For starters, boilers are less efficient and reliable than nuclear technology, which makes Fujian more susceptible to failures. In addition to this, because of the limited power, the Fujian can only travel a distance of 30 knots, which is quite low as compared to the Gerald R Ford. You can't talk about the vessel's engines without talking about the ability to refuel. Refueling is very significant, especially in times of battle. The faster a vessel can refuel and the longer it can retain its fuel is crucial for its victory. Unlike the United States, which is capable of refueling as the carrier is on the move, Fujian has to stop to refuel, which is quite time-consuming. In the case of a war, the inability to refuel safely at sea is Fujian's biggest disadvantage, which will severely limit her combat power So for China to actually counter the United States naval forces, they have to work diligently to improve on the areas they still lack behind.